Good morning. It's a pleasure to join you today for the ISOC-IL IN20 conference. And I apologize for having to address you in English. The number of 20th anniversary celebrations. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the commercial internet in Israel. Last year, the Internet Society celebrated our 20th anniversary. It was marked by a number of activities over the course of the year, most notably our global INET, of which a number of you were here from the ISOC-IL chapter. We're very appreciative of that support. And ISOC-IL itself will be celebrating its 20th anniversary in 2 years. In fact, ISOC-IL was the second chapter of the Internet Society, and the initial idea for chapters actually came from Dov Weiner here in Israel. So I'm going to just take a very few quick minutes to introduce you to the Internet Society, talk about some of our current activities because it sets up some context for my remarks later on. Our mission is to promote the open development, evolution, and use of the Internet, not only for itself, but for the benefit of all people across the world. As I said, we were started 20 years ago by Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn, two of the fathers of the Internet, and Vint actually served as the first CEO of the Society. We have 5 regional bureaus. Those are the ones that are marked there on the map. And we committed last year to setting up a presence here in the Middle East this year. So that work is underway to try and assess what that presence should look like and where it should be. But we are committed to getting it up and running here this year. We have 91 chapters across the world, 65,000 plus individual members, 146 organizational members, and Internet Society offices, small offices except for our office just outside of Washington, D.C., and another one in Geneva, but in 17 countries. We work at the intersection of technology, policy, and development. It's to advance the access to the Internet, as well as the ongoing development of the Internet as an open global platform. We've been very active in Internet development activities, in fact, predating ISOC, and most of the countries that have come online in that time, you can tie to specific network training workshops that ISOC held. We're also very impressed by all the activities in ISOC-IL. A lot of the activities with respect to access and development and inclusion, just very, very impressive. We're very active in policy. I'm going to talk about Internet governance because that's one of the most topical items at the moment, but we are active in all of those areas and more at both the national and international levels. Technology. We work to ensure that the Internet's technology continues to be based on technical standards developed in environments of open technical debate. We do that while identifying and addressing very real geopolitical interests. Those are some of the activities we're the most active in. We held IPv6 World Launch last June. It clearly moved the needle on IPv6 deployment, but it is still very, very, very small. It is critical that we all do everything we can to support the deployment of V6 if we want to have the same Internet going forward that we've enjoyed for the last 20 plus years. We are the home of the Internet Engineering Task Force, which also includes the Internet Architecture Board and the Internet Research Task Force. And virtually everything we're able to do online today is because of activities or work done within that constellation. We are also the home of the Public Interest Registry. I include this for issues of transparency, given ISOC-IL's responsibility to the .il TLD. We bid for and awarded the contract to operate the .org registry 11-ish, 12 years ago. And we created Public Interest Registry, which is a separate company, but they are created as a supporting organization of ISOC, and their surplus comes to fund our activities. We work with civil society, private sector, governments, intergovernmental organizations, everything from forums to white papers to hands-on workshops. And we have relations, formal relations with virtually every intergovernmental organization. That's just a quick snapshot, but that's OECD, ECOSOC, APEC-TEL, ITU, UNESCO. It's critical that we're actually kind of intimately engaged with their activities, as so many of the challenges facing the Internet these days are actually occurring in the policy arena. So just quickly, these are the reasons for the Internet's success. We sometimes call them core principles. It's obviously, you've all heard these words before. In fact, many of Israel's statements actually draw heavily on this, and we're always extremely appreciative. In particular, the statements you put in for the Wicket in last Dubai were excellent, extremely supportive of all of these principles. And while they're not particularly sexy and even all that exciting, they are absolutely fundamental to what gave us the Internet, what supports its growth, and what will help its growth going forward. So you'll see, in terms of some of my later comments, the fact that we need to be just as vigilant in ensuring that future going forward, as we were probably lucky to have that environment historically. So I won't go through those four in the interest of time, but you'll note a high correlation between what I say, the challenges for the future, and those principles that are core to the Internet's development. I have just a quick slide on each of these few points, so I won't go into these individually now either. I will go to the first one, though. So the challenges for the future in Internet. It's important that we do everything we can to reach the other 5 billion people still not online. Not only because it's the right thing to do, in fact, it will enrich all of us. The Internet is increasingly more valuable, useful, and interesting the more people and the more new ideas connect to it. We're very active in that area, and as I said, I know ISOC-IL has had a number of key programs. We just need to keep that in our focus. Second challenge is a positive evolution of the multi-stakeholder governance model. Recently, there was a ITU conference called the Wicket World Conference in International Telecommunications. It was held in Dubai in December 2012. And the purpose was to revisit a 1988 treaty called the International Telecommunications Regulations, or the ITRs. And the months prior to Wicket, the Internet Society and members of the Internet community and many policymakers from across the world expressed concerns that some member states may use those negotiations to establish restrictive or harmful government controls over the Internet. We also noted that some government proposals would threaten the viability of the Internet's multi-stakeholder model and, in fact, its architecture, possibly posing a direct threat to the open nature of the Internet itself. And I said in this respect, we were extremely happy to see Israel's very supportive comments in that process. So although some of the most troubling proposals offered in advance of the meeting did not make it into the negotiated treaty, the final document was still controversial enough that 55 nations declined to sign it. Now, having said that, more are likely to sign it after further consultation back in their capitals, likely bringing the level of support for this treaty to the same level as the one signed in 1988. And Israel, in fact, did not sign on to the treaty. So just very quickly, I'm getting a signal for time. I'm sure the slides will be made available to you after. These are some of the areas where we actually see some potential for threat to the Internet and the multi-stakeholder model as we've seen it. We need to make sure that we support the evolution of the architecture such that it continues to facilitate permissionless innovation. We all know mobile and the mobile technologies that are coming online. There will be an incredible richness there as long as the Internet is actually able to support that. This slide talks to the Internet model, and the model that's robust, open, collaborative, and transparent. It's managed by those who depend on or use Internet resources, allows for maximum evolution, and it's developed in environments that support open debate and open participation. Must resist all efforts to fragment the Internet. It's harmful not only to those that aren't able to access and participate in the full global Internet, it also is harmful to us. So what can we do? As I said earlier, be vigilant. Truly, this is the most challenging time the Internet has ever had in its relatively short history. It's a story that's still unfolding. We'd like to ensure that the story going forward is just as vibrant and rich and enabling as the past decades. So work to uphold multi-stakeholder, collaborative aspects of Internet governance, ensure continued support for the broad definition of Internet governance, which came through WSIS, and that internet governance should not be about critical internet resources, the internet's administrative functions, or any one organizations. Most of all, you have to participate in its development and management. So help us to defend the free and open internet. It's important for all of our futures. Thank you very much.
האינטרנט מגיע לכולנו.